Hey guys, this is Mr. Woodsmoke, and I'm coming to you with a video concerning gentrification and the corruption of the black Democrats in urban neighborhoods. So, I want to start with this whole, it's in the news, this whole Elijah Cummings, President Trump tweets, Elijah Cummings. Well, first it was Elijah coming at President Trump regarding the border and the conditions on the border. And so, if you're not too familiar with it, after I'm sure you probably are. I mean, it's all over the news. Well, it's kind of dying down now, but so what happened was Elijah Cummings tweeted and told President Trump that the border conditions are horrible. Okay, and so Trump immediately tweeted and said, Baltimore has horrible conditions. It's infested with rats, roaches, drug dealers, all kind of stuff. So, of course, nothing happened with Elijah Cummings' tweet, but it was a firestorm over what President Trump said. And, of course, we all know that the minute President Trump tweets someone that's a different color, if it's not in a positive light, of course they're going to call it racism. That's what they do. When you don't have an argument, you scream racism. So basically, what happened was you had all of these so-called black leaders. Of course, the usual suspects. You have Al Sharpton and everyone else. And how dare, CNN and MSNBC, how dare he, say that about Baltimore. Baltimore is it's a beautiful city. It's a gorgeous city. How dare Trump make these false accusations about Baltimore? So, they had their 15 minutes of positive light, the media. Then you had different news outlets pulling up old tweets, pulling up interviewing current residents of Baltimore, and you had the old tweets they pulled up. They even pulled up Elijah Cummings' tweet when he said the same thing. Well, it wasn't a tweet; it was an actual interview where he was interviewed in 1999, saying the same exact thing that President Trump said. He said that it was a infestation of drugs and all kind of. He said the word infestation because that's the word that they were harping on President Trump saying infestation. They said that word was racist. But if you look, and you can go to YouTube, and I challenge anyone to go to YouTube, pull up that same video of Elijah Cummings saying that Baltimore was infested with drugs and all kind of stuff. So also you had socialist Bernie Sanders saying a couple of years ago that Baltimore was the epitome of a third world country. He said he doesn't see why anyone could even possibly live in Baltimore. So, of course, 2019, they asked Bernie Sanders about what President Trump said. And, of course, Bernie Sanders said, how could anyone say something like that about Baltimore? That is the most racist thing that anyone can say. And then, of course, they pulled his tweets up. And, of course, he looked like Casper the Ghost after they did that. And you can go ahead and YouTube that. And they also showed so many congressmen in the past, black congressmen, because that's all Baltimore has is black congressmen and black trustees and things of that nature. But they asked a couple of years ago, they asked other, and they was pulling these videos up. They were asking other congressmen and senators in Baltimore about this, and they agreed. They said that it was horrid conditions. It was horrible. As a matter of fact, they had one interview where they were talking to some congressman on the streets of Baltimore, and a rat ran across the street. Big old gerbil looking. I'm talking about. I thought it was a cat. That sucker was that sucker had a social security number. It was so big. So rat ran across the street while they was, so they pulling up all these videos. So now it's backfiring on Elijah Cummings, trying to race bait and say, oh, well, President Trump just saying that it was racist to say that. So now, now the spotlight, they're trying to take the spotlight off of Baltimore because they don't want to shed the true light of what's going on. So there's another situation going on in Baltimore as far as the funding. I think over the last 10 years, Baltimore was given $2.8 billion, and there is no accountability of that. Now, here's the part where I get to the whole black corruption thing. And yes, I said black corruption because if it was all white senators and congressmen in a black area, they would definitely put race in there because they would link it with racism. So I'm saying black for a reason, to show that just because you have black mayors, you have black senators, you have black congressmen, you have black head of police, you have black prosecutors, everything is black. Everything is Democrat owned in Baltimore, Detroit, LA. You get the picture. Urban. It's funny how all the urban places have all black senators and mayors and all of this stuff, and they're the worst ever. They're a genocidal hub. They're a hub of genocide of our own people. But anyway, that's another story for another day. So anyway, they have all this money, and this money is basically not being allocated to the black community, and they're trying to get it accounted for in the black community. So that's something that they had one congressman on the news, and they were asking him about it. He never answered the question, and he kept deflecting about 400 years of racism. So the guy from the news asked him, he's like, what does 400 years of racism got to do with accountability of $2.9 billion? He's like, we can get to the racism part, but where's the money? So of course, he had $1 million. He kept bringing the racism thing, and the interviewer was like, what are you talking about? Like, if you lose some money, how is that racist? So this leads me to my point. Well, another one of my points about the hypocritical and the issue we have in majority of these black communities. Majority of these black-run communities are run by black people, and it's corrupt as all get up. It's corrupt. It's corrupt. And the thing of it is that, I think the problem that we have is with black people is that what we'll do, because we're so conditioned to keep it real, we will put anybody in office as long as they look like us. No matter if they're qualified or not. We will put anybody in office because, were they Democrat? Okay, I'm putting them in there. Are they black? Okay, I'm putting them in there. That's the worst thing you can ever do. And I'll give you an example. If you had a brain surgeon, you had two brain surgeons. One brain surgeon was white. One brain surgeon was black. Now, before you have this brain surgery, you see that one of them, brain surgeon, he got to where he was not on merit and not on hard work, but he got to where he was because of his skin color. So he didn't qualify, but he got there. He just got pushed there just because of his skin color. Would you want that guy operating on your brain? Okay. No, you wouldn't want him operating on your brain. Because you were like, I want a guy who actually went through the trenches, actually did what he was supposed to do, and actually earned it. I don't want to have someone operating on my brain. He got there just because of his skin color. You see what I'm saying? And that's what we're doing with a lot of these politicians. We're putting them there just because they're black. And God forbid if a white person say that they putting somebody there because they're white. We all know what hell that would bring. But anyway, it's something definitely, that you have to ponder. Um, that's point number one I wanted to make. I want you to think. I want you, anybody black that listens to this, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about when you put anyone in office, are you putting them there just because of their skin color, or are you putting them in there because of what they've done, because of their merit? You know what I'm saying? I look at Dr. Ben Carson, and this guy was not put there because of his skin color. This guy was doing the work. He did the work. He put in the work, you know? And that's what it's all about. It's all about putting in the work. I mean, this guy performed, I think, like the first, I think he performed like the first, like, of a Siamese twin. They were conjoined twins. He did some type of awesome surgery with that. But this shows that, that I would rather hire anyone over their work merit more so than just their skin color. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't want to be hired just because I'm black. Oh, well, we're going to put you here just because you're black. So basically, you saying that I'm an idiot and I couldn't get there because of the hard work. So it's kind of an insult. It's kind of a backhanded compliment. That's how I look at it. Now, as far as the gentrification part, a lot of black people say that, oh my God, gentrification is racist. How you gonna just come in here and just start building up stuff and kick us out and all this kind of stuff like that? You can't do that. Okay, let me break it down. Okay, gentrification is, it's like when you have a neighborhood, and predominantly black neighborhood, then you have a group or conglomerate to come in to the neighborhood, build it up, and then of course everything raises, the economy raises when you build it up, and then of course the people that were there, they can't afford it, so they have to move out. Okay, so let me break that down. Okay, so 90% of gentrification, well, 100% of gentrification, not even 90, 100% of gentrification that I've seen, and I've lived in cities. I lived in the D.C. area. I lived in the Baltimore area. I was in the Navy. I lived pretty much all across the United States and other countries. All right, so it's not like I'm just some backwoods. I mean, I know you see the woods here, aren't they beautiful? I know you see the woods here, but it's not some I'm just some backwoods black hillbilly that don't know what they're talking about. All right, I lived in the DC, I lived in the DMV for 20 plus years, and I worked for the federal government. So I kind of know what I'm talking about, a little bit. I'm not saying I'm a guru, but I do know what I'm talking about a little bit. So basically, this is how I see gentrification works. You have these black run areas like Baltimore, like Detroit, like downtown DC. I think Southeast DC. Just bad areas. L.A., Chicago, downtown Cleveland, all this kind of stuff. And they are predominantly 99% run by black Democrats. All right, let's just use Baltimore for example, since we're there. All right, Baltimore has a predominantly 95% black run. Everything is black in Baltimore. The mayor, the chief of police, the prosecutor, everything is predominantly run. It's all local. Everything local is black in Baltimore, which is great. If you pro black, it's great. It's good. Okay, but the problem as far as gentrification is, you have all these black people, but yet you still have record number of blacks killing and shooting each other, record number of drugs in there, record number of just boarded up buildings, record number of this stuff, and we're supposed to be keeping it in house. We're keeping this in house, and you have just level of corruption with just the level of corruption with black leadership. I remember a couple of years ago, and I had liked this guy. He was the mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick. Is it Kwame Kilpatrick. You know, at first he started out great. You know, he was doing stuff for the community and all of this stuff. And the next thing you know, man, this dude get caught up with strippers and taking money and bribery and all that stuff like that. And Detroit was the last city you need to do that to. And Detroit is a straight up crap hole. It is. I wouldn't let my dog go to downtown Detroit. You know, so you know, I just don't. So Detroit is still like that. And back to Baltimore, um, you know, with gentrification, Baltimore is going to get gentrified. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's going to get gentrified. And what's going to happen is that blacks had all the opportunity to bring the urban parts of Baltimore up. They had decades and decades to bring this city up, to put money into the city, put all kind of stuff to bring to these old broken down row houses. Just put money, invest money in them, and all this kind of stuff, and invest money in our own, and keep this money circulating in our own community. Invest it into our own community. And then we squander that. We squander it. We squander it with all this kind of other stupid stuff. You know, it's crazy because we squandered all this time, all of this money, and we could have invested all this money into our own communities and fixed what we need to fix, so we don't have to have a conglomerate or some type of entity come into our community and do it for us. So I think gentrification is a good thing. I mean, I saw parts of DC that were just absolutely, like, it was disgusting. Certain parts of DC. White man comes in there, cleans it up, makes it look real beautiful. I never forget. I used to work at the Navy Yard, and that was downtown off of South Capitol Street in DC. And it was to the point where they said that any naval personnel in uniform, they didn't want you to be out and about after 6 o'clock because you could get shot, stabbed, or killed out there. Now, after the white man came in there and gentrified it, they put the National Stadium down there. Man, you can literally walk through that place at 3 o'clock in the morning and nothing would happen to you. No drugs, no needles, no nothing. Why couldn't we have did that with our own money? Malcolm X said, this was back in the 60s, Malcolm X said that black people have $23 billion worth of spending power. That was back then in the 60s. But we don't invest it in our own community. We don't. Even Malcolm X said it back then. You can pull that video up. We don't invest our money in our own community. We don't do that. And see, we could have took all that income, invested into our own community, made our own stadium or whatever we want to make it, and put those buildings back up, put more jobs for our community so they could afford the higher price housing. We don't do that. Then when a white man comes in there, oh Lord Jesus, it's racist now. You have 40 and 50 something years to do this, and you don't do it. The minute a white man comes in, you want to scream racism. You want to scream racism. How you going to scream racism when you had an opportunity to do it to your own community? When everything is black owned, everything is Democrat owned in that whole community. 20 years ago, the white man didn't want that stuff down in D.C. You had ample enough time. All these black congressmen and senators and mayors and all, you had ample enough time to get that stuff knocked out. But they don't do it. Then after 50 to 40 years, when the white man says, okay, you know what, you had your time, let me do something with it. Then they do something with it, and then they make it look 30 times better than what we did with it. No crackheads, none of that stuff. No crackheads, no black people getting gunned down and all that stuff. Then when we move to different parts, then when the blacks do move out and wherever we move, is more killing, more shooting, more all that stuff. Then the white man comes in and clean that up, and then there's no more killing, more shooting. How in the world can anybody justify that? It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. You give us you you give us the car with the keys. We put it in a ditch, and then the white man help to pull the car out of the ditch, and we call the white man a racist. I'm gonna repeat that again. I want y'all to hear this. In these black Democratic run cities, we have been given the key and the car, and we run the car into the stinking ditch, and we have opportunities to get the car out of the ditch. We don't get out of the ditch. 20 years later, the white man comes, digs the car in the ditch. We scream racism. That's disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. How can that be justified? How? And people always say, oh, well, they gentrifying us. They trying to kick us out. They trying to kick us out. How the white man gonna kick us out of here? Easy. Because we've had the wheel for decades. So, seeing all this stuff in the news about how Baltimore and how these, and then you had the nerve, this CNN guy, grown, rusty, behind black man, crying. Oh, I'm crying. How dare Trump say that about my city? Well, was you crying? Or was you crying when 6 black boys got gunned down last weekend in Baltimore? You weren't crying about that? Why weren't you crying about that, sir? Why weren't you crying about that? You cried about a tweet. Why weren't you crying about that? Then on top of that, well, I'm from Baltimore and why you ain't there now? Because you're smart. You got out of there because you would have been a statistic, Mr. Black CNN reporter. So, anyone that wants to say that gentrification is a bad thing, leave something in the comments below, because I want to talk sensible about it. If you can give me a factual evidence about gentrification and how it's not our fault, how it's somehow it's just blatant racism, let me know, because I want to know, because I don't see how anyone can even see that. I don't, and the thing of it is that this is happening to predominantly 99% of black communities. How come, since we got all this money, let me ask you a question. Since blacks got all this money, how come we don't ever gentrify the white areas? How come we don't go into the trailer park and gentrify? How come we don't go into the trailer parks and gentrify that? We spend how much they said? I think they say black women spend $20 million on hair weave. No, I'm sorry, $20 billion on hair weave a year. $20 billion on white folks' hair. White folks looking hair. $20 billion a year. And you mean to tell me we can't take that $20 billion for some nasty, stanky, smelly weave and go into a trailer park and gentrify that and kick them white folks out? Come on, man. Come on. It disgusts me that we always using this stinking race card. It's disgusting. And am I saying racism doesn't exist? No. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. Racism exists. But it's kind of like the old saying, we give the devil way too much credit. Oh, Lord Jesus, I got that girl pregnant and the devil made me do it. No, you pulled them stinking drawers down and you stuck your little pee-pee in her hole. That's how you got her pregnant. You pulled them stinking drawers down, she pulled them stinking panties down, and you got her pregnant. The devil didn't make you do it. Oh Lord, that's gentrification, is racism. No, that ain't racism. That's they gave you the tools and everything, and they gave you the time to fix it, and you didn't fix it. That ain't racism. Come on, black people, wake up.